Last season, the Cleveland Cavaliers were 64-18, the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and a team that dominated the regular season. After having extremely high expectations going into the postseason, they ultimately fell short in the Eastern Conference semifinals, losing to the Indiana Pacers in 5 games, the same Pacers team that took the eventual champions to 7 games in the NBA Finals. And although I do believe that this Cleveland Cavaliers team has lost some pieces this offseason, I still believe in the core that they have. I believe in Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell, and I do believe that this Cleveland Cavaliers team has been unfairly criticized. People don't give enough respect to Donovan Mitchell for what he has accomplished so far throughout the NBA, and I do believe even with a weakened Eastern Conference that's now not going to feature Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, or Damian Lillard, in a very wide open East, you've got a Cleveland Cavaliers team that I still believe is going to win the Eastern Conference this upcoming season, and I'm excited to talk about what I think this Cavs team can do. Now, although I do have the Cavaliers coming out of the Eastern Conference this year, let's go ahead and talk about some of the moves that they've made this offseason. I want to talk a little bit about Kenny Atkinson and Johnny Bryant more specifically, and really just kind of look at how I think that this Cavaliers team is going to stack up in the Eastern Conference at the very end of this video. But before I go ahead and I do that, let me just say first and foremost, I do believe that this Cavaliers team has been unfairly criticized, not only this offseason, but that also really goes onto the shoulders of a player like Donovan Mitchell. Kendrick Perkins obviously is not a great NBA analyst. He's kind of just one of those guys on national television who just consistently gets up and spews whatever out of his mouth. I don't believe a lot of guys like Stephen A. Smith, ESPN's Kendrick Perkins, and a handful of others really know what they're talking about. Kendrick Perkins is one of the biggest Cavalier haters out there, one of the biggest Donovan Mitchell haters out there, and I've already made an entire video debunking the myth that Donovan Mitchell is a guy who can't lead his team deep into the postseason, that he's never been able to take a team to a conference finals, which is true. But at this point in his career, he's became the most underrated superstar in the game today. If you want to see a full breakdown of that, me explaining everything in context about Donovan Mitchell, I will go ahead and I'll link to it up above. I just can't stand the narrative that the Cavaliers are overrated. Donovan Mitchell's a guy who can't get the job done. We're going to debunk all of that today. We're going to talk about this Cavaliers team, but let me stop rambling. Let's actually go ahead and get into Cleveland's offseason moves. Now, when you take a look at what Cleveland did this offseason, I actually think that they did a pretty good job when it came to retooling and making sure to keep their core pieces intact this offseason. This is a team that decided not to blow up the roster, even with Kenny Atkinson in a very successful first season with the Cavaliers last year, which I applaud them for. There were rumors out there that Darius Garland may or may not have gotten traded or was going to be on the trade market, but I'm glad that they ended up keeping Darius Garland for now, and we'll see how everything continues to progress. But taking a look at what Cleveland did this offseason, probably their biggest acquisition was when they went ahead and they traded Isaac Okoro for Lonzo Ball from the Chicago Bulls. Lonzo Ball is a guy who has 2 years, $20 million remaining on his contract. This is a player who's going to have a club option on his contract next season. And we all know Lonzo Ball has dealt with a litany of injuries throughout his career. After playing in the 2021-22 season, he missed the entirety of the 2022-23 season before coming back last year in the 2024-25 season. And last season for the Chicago Bulls, Lonzo Ball only appeared in 35 games, having still dealt with some injuries. But having said that, Lonzo Ball is a player who is still continuing to show flashes, and I think this is a low-risk, high-reward type of opportunity for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You get another guy who's a primary ball handler, can still space the floor, and can still run the floor at a pretty effective level, all things considered, and I think he's going to perfectly fit what Kenny Atkinson and what this offense wants to do, pushing the pace out in transition, making sure you guys have lob threats with guys like Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley. Lonzo Ball's obviously a pass-first guy, and he's a very solid complementary piece for what this Cleveland Cavaliers team did. I thought that this was a terrific pickup in the offseason as a low-risk, high reward type of situation. Just want to take a moment to say, if you are appreciating this type of work and coverage from me, the best and easiest way to support me is by liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. It's free and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. My goal is to get this channel up to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year. And if you guys want more exclusive content from me outside of just here on YouTube, you guys can go ahead and follow me on my socials. The links to all of them will be in the description down below. But thank you guys again, and let's go ahead and get back to today's video. The Cavaliers also brought in Larry Nance Jr. through free agency, and they drafted Duke guard Tyrese Proctor with the 42nd overall pick in this year's draft. Tyrese Proctor, alongside Con Kneppel and Cooper Flagg, were obviously integral parts of the success of what the Blue Devils did last year in their tournament run. Obviously, Proctor had that unfortunate turnover in March Madness that eventually ended up kind of costing them their season, but that's a topic for another day. But Tyrese Proctor is a solid player. I'm not sure how much opportunity he's really going to get in his rookie season, but if he has an opportunity to get any kind of minutes, I do think that he does have some promise at the next level. When it came to the Cavaliers re-signing some players, the only player that they've re-signed so far is guard Sam Merrill, obviously sharpshooter off the bench. He's not Ty Jerome, someone we'll talk about here momentarily, but Sam Merrill is an absolute sniper. He's definitely a team killer for a good handful of franchises out there, and I think it was a good priority to go ahead and re-sign Sam Merrill. Now, when you talk about some of the departures and losses for the Cavs this offseason, their biggest loss was losing Ty Jerome to the Memphis Grizzlies, obviously one of the sharpshooters in the NBA last year, and over the last handful of years, Ty Jerome, I believe, was top 5 in the NBA in three-point percentage last year. So that was definitely a big loss, but considering the fact that the Cavaliers are about $87 million over the cap according to Spot Track, this is a team that just did not have the necessary funds in order to pay Ty Jerome, considering the fact that they're paying Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Donovan Mitchell all very large amounts of money. Cavaliers also lost Isaac Okoro, like I said, in that Lonzo Ball trade. Amani Bates to free agency. Javonte Green went to the Pistons. Chuma Okeke and Tristan Thompson both are still pending unrestricted free agents. So now when you really take a look at this roster and you look at the way it's kind of shaping up, you still have a starting five that's going to remain intact with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I think arguably a top 2 backcourt in the NBA, if not number 1. You've got Max Strus at the 3, then you're going to have Mobley and Jarrett Allen there at your 5. And then off the bench, you're going to have guys like Lonzo Ball, DeAndre Hunter, who they got in that midseason trade from the Atlanta Hawks. You're also going to have Sam Merrill, Dean Wade. Like, you've still got some very solid pieces right there off the bench. This is a team that was proven last year. Even at times when they were down, you saw the Cavalanche come back, and the Cavaliers were a team that was poised, ready for that next step. And unfortunately, the tale of the town has been that they've just had unfortunate injuries in the postseason. If you go back a couple of years ago to the Eastern Conference semifinals when they lost to the Boston Celtics, Donovan Mitchell sustained injuries. Other guys sustained injuries. And then last year in the postseason, Darius Garland was dealing with that toe injury. You had game 4 where Donovan Mitchell missed the entirety of the second half, even though he was dealing with an injury. Guys like Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, like, guys were just going down left and right, and that's just unfortunately been the talk of the town for the Cleveland Cavaliers. If this team can stay healthy, and that is a big if, they are absolutely, undoubtedly my favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference. And one thing that I really want to harp on and really address here is Johnny Bryant, one of the assistant coaches, offensive-minded guys, who was working with the Cleveland Cavaliers last year in his first season with Cleveland. He was obviously under Tom Thibodeau for all those years in New York, and then his time with Quinn Snyder in Utah. Johnny Bryant and Donovan Mitchell obviously have a very close relationship. I have followed Johnny Bryant extremely close throughout the entirety of his coaching career. He's going to be a head coach before we know it. But let me just harp on the fact that I don't think that Johnny Bryant, from NBA fans and perspectives, gets enough respect for the job that he did. He helped lead this Cleveland Cavaliers team to a #1 offense in basketball last year. Kenny Atkinson deserves a ton of credit for his offensive-minded skill set and just the way that he was able to get these guys going. I'm not taking anything away from Kenny Atkinson, but I've seen what Johnny Bryant has done. I've seen how he has continued to progress in the relationship that he's had with Donovan Mitchell and how that's been infectious towards everybody else. Kenny Atkinson and Johnny Bryant deserve a ton of credit for the work that they've done, really help opening up this offense and getting them to play much more efficiently, something that JB Bickerstaff was not completely able to do. And that's not to throw shade on JB. He's a very good coach, but let's make sure that we're giving Johnny Bryant and Kenny Atkinson their flowers. So now that we've kind of talked about what this Cavaliers team looks like, some of their offseason moves, and really about their coaching staff, let me talk about how I really think that this Cavs team is going to stack up in the Eastern Conference. Is this team going to be a #1 or #2 seed again in the regular season? Absolutely. They are going to be the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference this year. Are they my favorites to come out of the East? Absolutely. I thought if they did not get injured last year, this was a team that was ready to take that step and that they were going to win the Eastern Conference. Unfortunately, those injuries caught up to them. Now, how is this Cavaliers team going to compare and really stack up against some of the other top teams in the Eastern Conference next year, like the Atlanta Hawks, like the Orlando Magic, like the Detroit Pistons, the New York Knicks? I think this Cavaliers team, if they are healthy, is absolutely going to beat those teams. They've been battle tested. This is a team that has shown that they are resilient, and this is a team that finally really has that glue, that chemistry, and that continuity, now having their core four together for the last 3 seasons with Mobley, Allen, Garland, and Mitchell. Those guys have been playing together for a while, and this is the year, theoretically, that they should be able to get over that hump. Orlando is significantly improved with the additions of Tyus Jones and Desmond Bane alongside Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. And defensively, we know that that team is stout. That was one of the best first-round playoff matchup series that you could have ever asked for that does not get talked about enough in the 2024 playoffs versus the Cavaliers and the Magic that went 7 games. I had the honor and the privilege of being able to cover that series at my time when I was working with the Orlando Magic and alongside that organization for the last 2 seasons. But having said that, I think that against the Orlando Magic, that's going to be a tough matchup, but I got to give my respect to the Cleveland Cavaliers. When you talk about the Atlanta Hawks, same situation here. I don't think that the Hawks have any weaknesses. I think that they're going to be an explosive offense, but I don't think that they have enough depth to compete with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Same thing with the New York Knicks. I don't trust guys like Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm not really a fan of Mike Brown as the new head coach, so we'll see how that continues to progress. And then with the Detroit Pistons, I think that this is a team that is going to be significantly improved under the leadership of JB Bickerstaff. I love the moves that they made this offseason. But having said that, this is still a team that needs another year to get absolutely knocked down on their feet into the postseason. That's really how I feel about the Orlando Magic also. As great as they are right now, this is not a team that's just going to automatically win the Eastern Conference this upcoming season. I have to give the Cavs that respect. They are battle tested. They have that chemistry and that continuity. And I just truly believe that this is a team that if they stay healthy, the huge and the biggest caveat with this team, they are absolutely going to win the Eastern Conference this upcoming season. I'm very confident in Donovan Mitchell and this team. And the last thing I'll say about this video before I kind of wrap it up and just give my final thoughts is the fact that not only is Donovan Mitchell the most underrated superstar in the game of basketball, like I've mentioned, but Donovan Mitchell is the only NBA superstar that can drop 57 points in a playoff game, can drop 48 points in a playoff game, be one of the greatest and most historical playoff risers this game has ever seen in the postseason, and still get criticized for his shortcomings in the postseason because of his team not winning. Think about this. Donovan Mitchell scored 57 points against the Denver Nuggets in Game 1, and they lost. And they lost that series, and guess who mostly got blamed? Donovan Mitchell. Guess what Donovan Mitchell did in this year's postseason against the Indiana Pacers? Dropped 48 points. I believe that was in Game 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they lost by 1 point. And guess who takes on the burden of responsibility and blame? Donovan Mitchell. I just don't understand it. He is a historic postseason performer, one of the greatest playoff risers this game has ever seen. Donovan Mitchell has been nothing short of sensational and has overachieved and exceeded all expectations since coming into the league, and yet the narrative around him is still that he can't lead a team to the Eastern Conference Finals or the Western Conference Finals, and I think the argument is just absolutely absurd. But Cavs fans and NBA fans, thank you guys so much for sticking around throughout today's video and all of your guys' continuous support. If you guys appreciate this type of work and coverage from me, the best and easiest way to support me is by liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. And make sure that you guys stick around for more NBA coverage and content that I've got coming out. I've got a full breakdown very similar to this coming out for every single team over the next month and a half, and I know that you guys will enjoy that type of content. So thank you guys again for all of your continuous support, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.